I'm very disappointed in Elon. I've helped Elon a lot.
Hello and welcome to American Friction, the US politics podcast, which might as well just keep recording on a 24-hour loop at the moment because stuff just keeps on happening. I'm Jacob Jarvis, and of course, I'm joined by Nikki McCann-Ramirez.
Hello, hello.
Nikki, we recorded the podcast already, didn't we? And then basically stuff started happening around one Elon Musk. At first, I kind of thought, yeah, he's just tweeting. It's a little bit crazy. And now it's turned into a pretty all-out nuclear shit show, hasn't it?
It has, and our listeners deserve to get the news as soon as possible.
Basically, Nikki, I mean, we're doing this because Musk is absolutely losing his fucking mind. Like, he is losing his shit on Twitter, and Trump's kind of losing his shit back. And it does feel a little bit... I don't like using the word unprecedented because it gets thrown around so much, but this does feel like we're in some weird, uncharted territories. What's the weirdest thing that Musk has said so far?
The girls are fighting.
They really are. Like,
It's amazing. No, there's like, we were chatting, Jarv and I were chatting about this before we started recording, and really there are days where I miss the old version of Twitter, and these are those days. It's days where really like transcendental news is made, and right now you have the richest man in the world arguing with ostensibly the most powerful man in the world. We talk about this and we'll dive a little deeper into it in the episode today, but essentially Musk has been pretty critical of the reconciliation bill, the big beautiful bill that is currently being considered in the Senate and was passed through the House last week. He called it an abomination, and he's just been going in so hard on it in the last couple days.
The Kill Bill meme was one of the worst.
Yeah.
Like, that's the most like boring straight guy memeing.
Elon Musk has been accused of being a lot of things. He's never been accused of being funny.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. And so today in an Oval Office meeting, Trump was asked about, the situation with Elon, and he said that he was very disappointed, that he had helped Elon a lot. And I'll just quote a bit here. "He's not the first. People leave my administration and they love us, and then at some point they miss it so badly. Some of them embrace it and some of them actually become hostile. I don't know what it is. It's sort of Trump derangement syndrome, I guess they call it. We have it with others. They leave and then they wake up in the morning and the glamour is gone and the whole world is different and they become hostile." So
it's like he's describing really bad breakups of some variety, really.
I mean, this is a breakup.
Yeah.
This is a messy, sloppy breakup. This is two people scream fighting at each other in the middle of the mall. Like, everyone's watching, everyone can see. It's extremely embarrassing, but it's also very entertaining.
Yeah, I mean, so Musk, the weirdest thing...
Wait, I'm not done.
Keep going then.
Thank you.
Right.
So then Musk goes, then Musk goes on Twitter and he basically writes that without me, Trump wouldn't have won the election. Dems would control the House and like Republicans would have lost the Senate. And then he replies, "Such ingratitude," which, if you know anything about our dear leader, the president, you call him ungrateful. Like, Donald Trump is a person who wants the people he works with to act like they're indebted to him. So for someone to turn around and call Trump ingrateful, it's really like Musk knows he's hitting a pressure point there. So then Trump goes on Truth Social and basically says, "You know what? The easiest way that I could save billions of dollars is to cut your federal contracts and to cut the government subsidies that you get," which I don't know why, like, they're crazy. I don't know why it wasn't done before. And from there, it just evolved into Elon sort of like feverishly posting in reaction to Trump threatening the contracts.
The gratitude thing's weird, isn't it? Because that is like a big Trump world thing, it feels like he really wants people to show that respect. It kind of reminds me a little bit of the Zelensky meeting when they lost it at Zelensky, and that was all around gratitude and people being shown to feel like they show that sort of gratitude to one another.
You don't even have to go to Zelensky. You can go to Elon in, what was it, like 2022? Like in the interim between Trump's two terms, he had that really infamous tweet where he said that Elon came to the White House asking him for help on like all the subsidies he needed, and that he was and that what did he say? That he could have told Elon to get on his knees and beg,
Yeah.
and Elon would have done it. Of course, I think that's something that stuck with Elon. It's something that theoretically they got past because they made this unholy alliance to try and win the election. And we talk about it more in the main segment, but I think the reality is that Elon didn't really want to leave. He was getting pressure from his companies, from the public. Um he was this flashpoint figure for everything that has gone wrong in the first couple months of the Trump administration, or a lot of what has gone wrong in the first couple months of the Trump administration. And so, in a way, I think these two men, for all their differences, share a very important characteristic, which is that they both have like this intrinsic desire to be loved and admired and respected.
Yeah.
And I think for Musk to lose that public power that he had as sort of a member of Trump's cadre, the influence he had over the federal government publicly, because he was still going to have it privately. Our boy's crashing out. He's
Yeah,
crashing the fuck
I
out.
think a weird thing about those two that maybe is making this get so sloppy is I do think it seems like there was a bit of a genuine friendship there, or at least one side of them felt there was a genuine friendship. Like Elon Musk has this weird sense of humor, and he can be clunky socially, and there perhaps there's reasons for that linked to he's spoken around his neurodiversity before and stuff like that, and so I don't want to be I'm not shitting on him for that, you know what I mean? Like, but I'll shit on him for plenty of things, but
Yeah.
being awkward socially, that's fine. And having this weird sense of humor, and it felt like him and Trump kind of vibed on that, had this same weird sort of sense of humor in some ways.
The thing is, where Musk is not funny, Trump is unironically funny. But I think what they had that really aligned them was, at least publicly, a set of common goals. It really was an insane alliance because, like I said earlier, you had the most powerful man in the world, definitely the country, and the most like the richest man in the world, which in itself, like, wealth is power. Wealth is a form of power, particularly in American elections, where they pour millions and millions and millions of dollars into political projects. It really was potentially an unstoppable alliance, especially when you consider that the next big project for Republicans was the 2026 midterms, which, if we go by how parties in power are treated by the public during midterms, Republicans are going to be at a serious disadvantage, both just electorally and, in the historic sort of public perception way. And the amount of money that Elon was willing to throw at these elections was huge. This is a huge financial loss for Republicans as well, because now, I mean, you have this huge feud between two men who are fundamentally extremely prideful. Their pride is so important to them. And I mean, even just in the last couple minutes right before we started recording, Elon tweeted out that in light of the president's statement about cancellation of my government contracts, SpaceX will begin decommissioning its Dragon spacecraft immediately. So this is something that, like, has implications for the American space program. It has implications for Republican elections. It has a ton of implications for the political landscape of this country right now. And one of my coworkers just sent a great tweet to our group chat, from Alex Cohen on X, that just says, "This is Drake versus Kendrick for Republicans."
I mean, on the election win point and what Musk has thrown around, does he have a point? Like, is it fair for him to say that Trump wouldn't have won without him, or is that just I don't
I
know?
don't think that's 100% the case. Again, this is a man with a fucking gigantic ego. I
Yeah.
think, yes, Elon Musk absolutely was a contributing factor to Trump's election win. 100%. He ran a bunch of ground games in some of these swing states. I do still think the fundamental thing that lost Democrats this election and handed the election over to Republicans were, a failure to appropriately message on the economy, and B, Biden even declaring that he was going to run for a second term instead of stepping aside and allowing there to be a competitive primary that allowed Democrats to, like, calibrate messaging toward what their voters actually wanted and needed. Elon Musk, we know from sort of contemporary reporting at the time of the election around America PAC, that in some of the critical swing states where Musk's PAC was operating, people were really pissed off because they were saying that the door knocking operations and sort of the ground game was really sloppy. It was not well organized, that people who were supposed to be, doing outreach to voters were faking stuff. Like, yes, Elon Musk absolutely influenced this election cycle. Does he single handedly get credit for Trump winning? No, he does not.
I mean, at the minute, the initial reaction from the sort of MAGA crowd, has anyone said anything? Or are they all just there like, fuck, what's going on? Mum and dad are fighting. We don't know what to do.
I mean, it's a mixed bag. You have some people, you have a little bit of everything. The Laura Loomers of the world are kind of like, yes, absolutely, get Elon the fuck out of here. And then people like Kanye West are like, no. Here, wait, where's the Kanye West one?
Gosh, Kanye West.
He just goes, bros, please, no. We love you both so much.
I mean, at least that settles that it's like, you know, there is no. I don't want anyone to win in this because
Yeah.
Kanye wants neither of them to lose, so I
It's like
can't possibly want either of them to win.
It's like the meme of the lobsters fighting,
Yeah,
I'm just,
yeah.
like, throwing money into the pot, like, whatever. I win, everyone loses. We have to remember that this comes on the heels of a lot of Republican criticism of Musk basically saying that instead of having a productive discussion about the reconciliation package, he was just kind of, lobbing grenades into the Republican caucus while the Republicans were trying to get this passed, and that he wasn't being a team player, and yada yada yada. And then there are, of course, other people who think that Elon Musk absolutely has a point, that that increasing the deficit is unacceptable. And I'm just gonna put a pin in that for the full segment because we do talk about that in the main body of the show.
Yeah, yeah. Well, so I mean, gosh, there's so much to get into here. What do you think's the weirdest thing that Musk has said? Then, like, the Epstein thing.
Yeah.
What's going on here? Like, that's just it's pretty
So
wild.
Elon Musk, in the middle of all of this, he goes to X and he says, "Time to drop a really big bomb. At real Donald Trump is in the Epstein files. This is the real reason they have not been made public. Have a nice day, DJT." And then he replied to that being like, "Mark this post for the future. The truth will come out." And then if you go to the replies, one of the top tweets was, "If you knew this, why did you work with him?"
Yeah, man. Like,
But the
literally,
thing is,
it's
we
just. But we did know
we
it. It's
yeah,
kind of
we did know
known.
it.
It's around us. Yeah.
Trump and Epstein, and, again, this is all alleged. Epstein was never tried. It was all, alleged. He obviously died in custody. But Epstein's connections to Trump have been pretty well known and documented for decades. They were, very publicly friends for a pretty long time in the New York social scene. It was reported in 2019 that Trump was in Epstein's alleged client book. There have been allegations that Trump traveled in the jet and maybe went to the island and we know this. But again, it's also just from an Elon Musk standpoint, another instance of a very funny and disturbing habit that Elon Musk has, that when he's caught in an argument that he's not sure he can win, he immediately defaults to, "Oh, you're a pedophile."
Yeah, yeah.
He's
It's
done
a
it
pretty
several times.
nuclear option of how
Yeah.
to
Yeah,
how to
it's definitely a nuclear option, but again, if the goal here was to preserve his federal contracts, that's definitely not gonna help. I think it's a lost cause. I think if I'm the board of SpaceX X and Tesla right now, I am in the group chat saying we need to call a vote tonight because Tesla's stock tanked 15% in the last 3 hours.
Yeah, I don't see a way of that coming around at the moment. I mean, on that, Elon Musk is not someone I want to be genuinely particularly sympathetic towards, but do we kind of need to start worrying about Elon Musk? Because this is it's pretty extreme shit to be saying about someone who we know will blackbag people and send them to foreign gulags.
No, I mean, I think it's, definitely a worrying pattern of behavior, especially since this is coming pretty closely on the heels of the New York Times reporting that Elon Musk was doing a shit ton of ketamine on the campaign trail. like to the point where it was affecting his health and that he's a regular drug user. And the New York Times couldn't conclusively say that he was still regularly using ketamine. But I just think if I'm the Tesla board and I'm seeing reports like that come out, and then I'm seeing this erratic behavior, or like the SpaceX board, because SpaceX pretty much relies almost entirely on government contracts for its ability to exist. Like that's what it does. I would definitely be considering making some serious staffing changes and maybe advising my founder and CEO to take some time off and
Yeah.
seek help. But I'm not on the board.
Well, hopefully they'll take your advice. The board all listens. I know they
Yeah,
do.
that's right. The board all
Gavin
listens to this
Newsom,
podcast.
SpaceX board. Who else listens? Cohen. They're all listening. So
Oh yeah,
they're all
they're
good.
all huge fans.
We've got the influence there. Nikki, well, I'm sure we'll return to this soon, but have fun over
Definitely.
the next few hours covering this.
You know what? I've just been sitting at my desk giggling like a little idiot. It's great.
Yeah, just let them fight. That's what I say. Right. Well, listeners, thanks so much for putting up with me and Nikki and our excitable feelings around all of this. Now you can listen to the rest of the show.
I'm very disappointed in Elon.
Right, on this show then, Trump is back on his bullshitting about Joe Biden for some strange reason. Why can't the president shut up about poor sleepy Joe? And Elon Musk is really stinking up the joint as he strops away from the White House. How worried should Trumpy boy be? Plus, there is more. We will wrap up other stories you've missed and answer some listener questions. But before that, Chris, it's that time. Give us a silly question, please.
I'll give you one. Here we go.
Thank you, young man.
Musk spent $277 million on Trump's campaign for president.
He did.
He's now called this big, beautiful bill, which I called Big Ugly Bill. He's called it what did he call it? A big abomination.
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that. So he's wasted his money, essentially. He's now turned his back on Trump, it seems, in a way. So my question is to you guys, what's the biggest waste of money you've ever spent on a thing?
Biggest waste of money I've ever spent on a thing. My friend once made me go to a French restaurant in the centre of London for his birthday. None of us wanted to go. And it was just really overpriced, and it was really touristy, and it was just so obviously a tourist trap.
What was it called?
Just decided, I can't remember the name, so I won't slander it.
Out it.
That felt like a big waste. But then, more broadly, I suppose, just all the shit I've needlessly replaced, even though I haven't lost it. I lose shit all the time that I haven't lost. So, like headphones. I've got 4 sets of wireless headphones because I keep losing them.
Do they all work? Oh, yeah, you did. I remember this
So
phase.
I'll lose it and I'll buy a new pair. I'll lose it, and then I find them all. So I just wish I could not have to replace stuff that I haven't lost that I've lost.
You also bought a quite sketchy pair of shoes once, didn't you?
Oh, yeah, them shoes I got off Temu. They were a TikTok ad, weren't they?
And they came, and literally one was half the size of the other.
That doesn't count, though, because they cost like £3. Sorry. Sorry, everyone, for me buying them.
Yeah.
I didn't say I was moral. Nikki, what about you?
Oh, my God. I think, every single cent I have ever spent on rent is probably up there.
Yeah.
I just buy a lot of frivolous things. When I get anxious, I shop. It's not good. I should stop doing it. But travel, food, restaurants, I don't say I can regret any of them. If I had to pick one, I'd probably say Disney.
Yeah.
It was cool to do it once. I don't think it's worth what it costs at this point. And Universal Studios was better. So
your biggest regret is going to Disney?
No, are we biggest if I purchase?
Money-wise.
Yeah,
money. You're saying Disney.
No. I said money-wise, every cent I've ever spent on rent, I should have just lived with my parents.
Sorry, yeah.
And then,
That is
fair.
fair.
But that's if I had to think of a frivolous purchase, it would probably be going to Disney. I don't regret it because it was my best friend's bachelorette and it was just like a very cute experience. But it was way too much money. And Universal was right there and it was so much better. Like I had so much more fun at Universal.
Chris, what are you wasting money on?
Beige corduroy trousers.
You can't pull them off, I don't think, Chris. I know you can't.
You know what? If they'd have been wider and less fitting, they would have been quite nice.
So they were like skinny fit
as
well.
were skinny, yeah.
No, how expensive could that feasibly be?
They were £45.
That's nothing. That's like...
you don't know my bank balance.
But I think that is, in terms of a waste, because it's like...
I never wore
Look
it.
at you, Chris. I can tell
them.
you right now, you can't pull off skinny corduroy.
But that's, I know that, Jarv, I know that. And also, Nikki, to your point, I could have returned them. I know I could have, but also the pride. I'd made a big thing
really?
to Lauren.
I'm going to go return a cardigan later today.
But I refused to return it because I'd bought it and I said I'd wear it. Okay. And in my mind, I'm still thinking I'm going to wear them at some point.
Yeah. Oh, you've still got them?
I've still got them,
next week.
Oh,
next
do
week.
I?
Well,
I don't know, but if I do, they're buried somewhere. But yeah,
SMH.
Big time regrets.
Well, if we get enough Patreon supporters, we'll put in a tier which is photos of Chris in the beige skinny corduroys. So if people want to see that, we'll make it happen. And Nikki's fan fiction as well. And something embarrassing for me. I don't care what it is.
Yeah. Well, let's go on with it, shall we? You're not going to regret listening to this. It's American Friction.
Okay, then, before we begin, a favour, if you will allow me to ask you one. I feel like we're all friends here. We really do need your help to keep the show going, and how you can help us is by going to Patreon and supporting the show. So, Chris, what's the URL for that if they want to go?
It's AmericanFriction.com/Patreon.com. Is that right?
No,
it's at Patreon.com/American Friction.
That is right.
Yes.
Sorry, everyone. We're ad-libbing this, and I thought I'd trust Chris, but
I asked Jarv to write it in the script. He didn't write it in the script.
Where you need to go is Patreon.com/American Friction. There's a link in the show notes if you don't trust either of us to be correct. We have a community chat there, bonus content, the episodes without adverts, and you'll get the warm, fuzzy feeling of helping me, Nikki, and Chris follow our dreams. And this is our dream, is making this podcast for all of you.
Well, I'm going to end up playing for Leicester City.
One day,
Nice.
yeah. I think, we need a striker. Anyway, go to patreon.com/American Friction. Support us there if you can. If you can't do that, go and subscribe and leave a review. Rate and review us wherever you're listening to the show. We'd very much appreciate it, but only say nice things. If you say bad things, Chris gets very angry.
Oh, yeah.
And that isn't nice for everyone. For anyone.
Well,
and
yeah.
everyone.
And
I guess
everyone.
I was right both ways. Right, on to the show. Nikki, Elon Musk is having a right old tantrum, isn't he? Is an angry richest man in the world a bit of a problem for the Trump White House?
I mean, kind of, especially when the angry richest man in the world owns one of the biggest social media platforms in the world and is addicted to posting.
Yeah, he is big on that. He's fucking strangest guy.
He was supposed to stay out of the spotlight, and it lasted all of 5 minutes.
Do you think that's what's driving him to be causing this ruckus that he is? Is just he is the one thing he can't buy, I suppose, is complete the attention that he's after, sort of thing. And that's what he craves and misses. His money can't get him the limelight he's going for, and that's what he's kind of just desperate.
Partially, I think that's definitely a factor. I think the bigger thing here is that the quote-unquote big beautiful bill, which we've discussed, cuts healthcare for a ton of people. The latest estimates that came out on Wednesday say 16 million people will lose access to healthcare over the next 10 years under this legislation. But I think from Musk's perspective, the biggest thing is that this bill also slashes a bunch of the green energy initiatives that were instituted under Biden under the Inflation Reduction Act, including electric vehicle tax credits, which are a huge boon to manufacturers like Tesla. I also think Elon probably anticipated that he and his companies would be getting some sweet-ass handouts in this legislation, which they're not getting. Some more, reductions to regulations, financial boons to himself. He is getting a huge tax break as a billionaire because this big, beautiful bill will also increase the deficit by codifying tax breaks for the wealthiest Americans. But I think the bigger thing is sort of he's been forced to go back into his companies. And of course, his companies are subject to legislation and regulation. And a company like Tesla is already in a really precarious position because of all the damage Elon Musk did to their brand and reputation in the last 4 months. Now, if you have the government come in and say, we're going to get rid of a tax credit that makes your vehicles super attractive to buyers, that's extra bad for them. So I think it's less about the principle of Elon Musk being a deficit hawk and more about how this is personally going to affect him.
Are we in a bit of a weird position here, though, of kind of our enemy's enemy being our friend? And even if Musk's motivations to bring down the big beautiful bill aren't good ones, would it kind of be a good thing to make this fail? Are we kind of rooting for Musk in a weird way?
No, not really. Because the reality is that this bill isn't going to fail. And Musk isn't really approaching this bill from the angle of, hey, we shouldn't pass this because it strips 16 million people of their health care over the next decade. He's approaching it from the angle of, we need to cut more programs because the tax incentives that I'm getting and all the other things that are going to hike up the deficit aren't actually paid for. Does that make sense?
Okay.
There is, when I talked about it in a previous episode, there is a cohort of Republicans. They made a lot of noise in the House of Representatives who opposed this bill because they said, yeah, it's great that we're giving tax cuts to the rich. It's great that we're cutting waste. I'm doing this in air quotes for listeners who aren't watching the video on Spotify, who are cutting like quote unquote waste, fraud, and abuse. It's good that we're doing that. We need to do more because these tax cuts aren't actually paid for. The solution on the Republican end isn't to be like, oh, no, we should let people keep their health care. We should look at actual ways to strengthen these programs and improve people's access and improve the quality of the care they're getting. That's not their solution. Their solution is more drastic cuts to spending.
With the deficit talk, do you think that Trump and many Republicans are going to be, or many of the MAGA Republicans are going to be convinced by that whatsoever? Because it felt for a long time like the GOP's whole brand was fiscal responsibility, not growing the deficit, even though it's their record on that is patchy, even the people who were dedicated to that. But is this argument going to convince Trump and the MAGA squad whatsoever? Or basically, do people like Musk and the Hawks need to realize that old school Republican thinking is basically out of the window? That isn't who Trump is.
I mean, it was never who he was. Republicans love to make a stink about the deficit when they're out of power. They love yelling about it. They love talking about how Democrats just love to overspend on, handouts to poor people who don't want to work and are lazy and aren't willing to pull themselves up by their bootstraps. And then they get into office and they raise the deficit. During Trump's first term, he skyrocketed the deficit after President Obama had significantly reduced it. Under Biden, the deficit again increased partially because of the Inflation Reduction Act, because the United States and the world were in this really weird period of economic instability. And there were economic consequences to the amount of spending that the Biden administration did, primarily that they lost the fucking election because the economy, while we did not experience a massive collapse in the aftermath of the COVID-19 pandemic, the economy was so unstable that it became a very easy cudgel for, Republicans to hit Biden over the head with about how he had skyrocketed the deficit, how inflation had gone up, how things were more expensive. But Republicans are just as guilty to contributing to excessive government spending as Democrats are. And the reality is that when it comes to their spending, the deficit increases aren't because they're actually helping constituents. It's usually because they're helping corporations and the rich, which is why the deficit went up under Trump's first term, because he wrote this massive tax reform package that, gave some kind of middling benefits to the working middle class, to the poor. They got some marginal gains on their taxes. But the biggest beneficiaries were America's wealthiest tax brackets. They got massive tax cuts, and the government lost a ton of revenue, ended up having this massive bill that they couldn't pay for. And now, in order to sort of retroactively make up for those decisions, not just from the first term, but in the second term, they're cutting Medicaid. They're kicking people off of food stamps. They are cutting programs started under the Biden Inflation Reduction Act that were great for Republican economies in red states. For what? For what?
Yeah. I think Trump might be a bit of a bad dude.
I think he's a baddie.
He is a bit of a baddie.
Mm.
Nikki, let's play devil's advocate here for a moment.
Gosh.
The big beautiful bill, the BBBB.
Why are we still calling it that?
The BBB.
Can we
That's
call
literally what it's called. No, that's
That's the name.
Yeah, I get that.
we can call it the reconciliation package.
Can we call it the bub?
The
bub?
The big ugly bill.
I'm going for the.
We need to make a stand. And this is the hill we're going to die on.
Oh, Chris, you're going to rally them Democrats, aren't you? Maybe you'll all wear pink.
I'll rally everyone.
And you'll get them all going. Anyway, Nikki, the big beautiful bill.
Well,
It's like you're not listening.
Oh, gosh. Well, are there, though, devil's advocate? Are there any good bits? Tell me the positives. All right.
I
good.
mean, I think there are two things that I think are objectively good if misguided. One of them is no tax on Social Security. The other is no tax on tips. Both of these things are like marginal gains for people who absolutely need help. No tax on Social Security, like you've paid into that system. Social Security is literally, I mean, it's not a tax. It's something that you pay into, but it's kind of insane that you have to pay into it your entire life. It's like taken off of your wages.
Yeah.
And then once you get it back when you're old in retirement, the government is then going to take a cut of it. So no tax on Social Security sounds great. No tax on tips, I think is really good for the service industry. I think it is a poor substitute for actually paying industry workers a livable wage and reforming the minimum wage in this country. Just doing it's a poor substitute for doing actual economic reform that will lift up entire industries of people, not just, service industry workers, which,
Sure.
to be clear, deserve it. And I like those two policies. I think they're objectively good. I think people in those industries have kind of raised some red flags about how, like, hey, this is nice, but we need more, and this isn't necessarily the top three things we've been asking for. But I think those are objectively good things that if they make it through the final reconciliation package, I wouldn't be upset about.
Yeah.
Much more dire, of course. Again, like, these are some positives that are light positives, but weighed against the prospect of low-income people who might be service industry workers who are working for tipped wages being, like, kicked off healthcare or losing access to supplemental nutrition programs like SNAP. Obviously, the latter is far worse and far more significant.
Yeah, I also worry about really cynical restaurant owners or whatever
Oh, yeah.
now not wanting to push up what they're paying staff. If staff say, oh, actually, could we get a pay rise? And going, well, no, you don't get tax on tips now. So actually...
Also, you run the risk of, like, businesses writing things off as tips that they should be paying taxes on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Crafty.
Crafty.
Let's go on to something weird now. So, Nikki, Trump shared a conspiracy theory suggesting that Biden is dead and has been replaced by a robot.
I love this because they also did that to Hillary Clinton.
So, I mean, was it an accident, him retweeting that?
No.
Or
God,
is it a
no.
way of kind of throwing a bone to his really weird supporters, basically?
I don't think it's an accident because we've seen him post similar stuff before. He's reposted memes of people calling for Biden and other prominent Democrats to be executed or arrested. He, like, a couple of weeks ago, posted that insane video of the Trump Gaza, like, AI resort. He also reposted a video claiming when he launched the retaliatory tariff policy that he was doing on purpose to almost crash the economy and then get the Federal Reserve to lower interest rates. he does these things intentionally, and I think sometimes he just sits there and reposts shit because he likes it. And what was interesting about this post, and maybe to your point, the only plausible reason I could think that maybe it might have been an accident, even though I don't think it was, is that it's a link, and the link that shows up is a photo of him, like an old photo of him giving a peace sign.
where he
But
looks
then if
kinda
you click
handsome.
on the link, it says there is no hashtag Joe Biden. You executed in 2020. Biden clones, doubles, and robotic engineered soulless, mindless entities are what you see. Hashtag Democrats don't know the difference. And then they like hashtag and tagged a bajillion different things, including like CNN, Hispanics against socialism, Breitbart News. And like, it seems absurdist, but if people recall, in 2016, there were actual widely believed conspiracy theories that Hillary Clinton had died and been replaced by a body double. Like, this isn't new, and there are Republicans out there who believe this kind of stuff.
Well, Chris, on that, it isn't new, is it? Because I, myself, reported on something like this in 2021, didn't I? Tell me about what I wrote about.
Well, no, you tell me what you wrote about.
No.
I've not read the whole piece. You wrote
Why?
it. Just go on,
Why
tell
wouldn't
me.
you do that?
Tell me what you
I
wrote.
can't do. I basically remember this spreading around in 2021. Yeah, there was this idea that Joe Biden was actually a clone, and I couldn't disprove it.
You couldn't disprove
I
it.
couldn't prove it either.
Yeah.
It's
So it
hard
might
to
be
disprove
true.
a negative or prove a negative.
Well, you
It's the
know,
thing about conspiracy theories,
I'm built
sometimes they are
different.
quite hard to disprove or prove either way, and that's why they last so long.
exactly. But basically, I mean, let's not you and me start talking about conspiracy theories,
No,
because
that'll
I remember
go
the
on,
last
but
time we
yeah.
did that, and it
Meant to
fucking
be
went on for
15
ages.
minutes.
But it really isn't a new thing, is it?
No, there's various things that have happened, and there's three things. I'm holding up three fingers there because
Chris
that's
can
the
count
number
everyone,
three. I
just
can
so you
count.
know.
I'm pretty good at that. Three events that I remember people picking out and saying, this is evidence that Biden doesn't exist. One was the time he scratched the back of his neck, and it looked as though conspiracy theorists said it looked as though it was a mask because his skin kind of crumpled. He's just old.
Yeah.
The second one was
No collagen.
the second
Exactly.
one was that he was, or if you believe the conspiracy theorists, a body double wearing a mask, again, back with a mask, was walking next to his wife and was way taller than Joe Biden
Oh,
actually
really?
is. That was another one. And then the third one was that people thought that one of his addresses was deepfake because they didn't see him blink for a long time throughout
Okay.
the entire video that was released by the White House. But there was a cut in that video. So it's perfectly plausible that,
He blinks
probably
and yeah.
blinks and then they just started recording again.
I do sometimes believe the Melania body double conspiracies.
Yeah. Okay. How
Yeah.
come?
Okay.
What makes you think they're real?
Just because, like, I think she would do it.
yeah,
I think she would be like, no, I don't want to be seen with my husband.
Yeah, I can
Send
see
an
that.
actress.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to. I
Been seen with your husband?
wouldn't want to be seen with my husband if it was Donald Trump.
Yeah, that's fair.
But that could be quite a good job, though. Melania body double job.
I reckon it probably pays all right, that.
Exactly.
You'd take
Chris,
it, wouldn't you?
apply for it.
I've not got enough hair for that.
I don't know. I don't work on the entertainment side of this magazine, but I feel like celebrities sometimes have body doubles, to like distract the press if they're like trying to leave
Really?
secretly. I don't
I
know.
love this.
It's
Nikki
in movies.
is planting conspiracy theories left, right, and centre today, and I'm here for it.
Apparently, Stalin had 3.
Wow. Okay.
I
Wow.
don't know where I pulled that from. I remember reading
Out of
that
your
somewhere.
ass?
Basically, yeah. I saw it on the internet once.
Chris can
Could be completely false.
Chris can only count to 3 and can only remember things in triplicate.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's the issue. So anything
Yeah.
3 related, he's beyond. Right. Serious faces now, everyone. He keeps on blaming Biden for stuff. Trump does, as you would expect. He's like, the economy, of course, blah, 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 blah. It is getting a bit boring. We'll talk about that later on. But now there is a quite sinister bit of blaming Biden going on here, which is linking Biden to an attack in Colorado that happened over the last week or so. Nikki, what is he on about here?
Yeah. So there was a horrific attack last weekend in Boulder, Colorado. A group of protesters who meets every weekend at a park to protest on behalf of the Israeli hostages who are being held by Hamas. They call for their release. They meet every weekend. Was attacked by a man who threw Molotov cocktails at them and like tried to hit them with an improvised flamethrower. So he injured 15 people, was arrested, taken into custody. And it turned out that he was an immigrant from Egypt who had come to the United States legally on a tourist visa, applied for asylum, overstayed the visa. If you have an asylum proceeding underway when your visa expires, you're technically not here illegally because of like you've declared and you filed for asylum and you have like a separate ongoing proceeding. It's something the Trump administration is trying to get rid of. But he had essentially kind of like overstayed his visa, overstayed his work permit. It's unclear what the status of the asylum claim was. And the Trump administration is now trying to link this horrific attack to undocumented immigration, saying that this guy was allowed into the country because of Biden's open border policy, because they don't vet people strictly enough. And it's horrific on multiple levels. The attack in itself is horrifying. The motives are terrible. It's anti-Semitism. It completely undermines the pro-Palestinian cause by committing actions that are directly what the Palestinian cause opposes, which is the unceremonious, indiscriminate attacking of innocent people. And on top of that, you now have the Trump administration not only using this attack to malign the pro-Palestinian cause as a whole, but also to scapegoat immigrants. And so what Trump has been doing here, Trump and Republicans as a whole, is essentially blaming the Biden administration, where really, as of now, it's unclear in what year the suspect entered the country. It's not super clear if it was either under Biden or Trump, because some of these visas, they can last 5 up to 10 years. It's not clear what kind of vetting process the person underwent. And it's also, as far as I know, when we're recording this, not clear that this person had an existing criminal record before this attack.
Something else that Trump is doing, which feels very strangely authoritarian, relating to Biden. So he has called for this investigation into the Biden pardons, also investigation into the history of Biden's cognitive decline, and I don't really understand how he's planning on doing that. But the pardons being investigated, could they be overturned? Because it just seems to me like a really strange situation to be in there.
This is what I mean by everything that can be exploited will be exploited. There are absolutely important questions about who knew what about Biden's mental decline, when they knew it, and what was done to keep that from the public.
Yeah.
To make that jump to insinuating that there were criminal actions involved in that, that's a leap that I don't think the Trump administration necessarily has evidence for. But as we've seen over the course of the last several years, particularly with sort of like the Hunter Biden Ukraine stuff, any insinuation can be turned into a circus. Republicans don't necessarily need to have any sort of proof that someone in the White House was forging documents using an auto pen with Biden's signature, which is what they're insinuating about pardons and even like executive orders and potentially pieces of legislation. All they need to do is hold a bunch of hearings in Congress where they make it an issue, where they make it something that the average Republican voter is like, oh, well, he might have, like, oh, they might have forged his signature on pardons, so they can actually go after these people because those pardons are invalid. There is no precedent for a president revoking pardons issued by a previous president. There's no precedent for it. Even after former President Gerald Ford pardoned Nixon after one of the biggest political scandals in American history, where criminal activity definitely took place, they couldn't undo that pardon. They didn't try. It was like, okay, he's been pardoned. He's received a presidential pardon. It's done. Again, if Trump has fought so hard to get courts to agree that he has the right to do whatever the fuck he wants, that I could see him trying to reverse these pardons and then being like, like I still have the power to pardon people. I still have the power to pardon my own allies, because he is, at the end of the day, a president who is out for himself and himself exclusively. But there we're just getting into the theoretical. And the reality is that all Republicans need to do is make these insinuations a public spectacle that plays well with their base, creates a narrative that Democrats then have to turn around and defend, and continue this argument that, you know, everything that's happening right now was sown at the feet of like Democratic chaos and incompetence during the Biden administration. And I think this isn't the end of this. It's just the beginning.
Democrats have got their shit together and loads of good communicators now, though, at least.
Yeah, totally.
To push back.
They've got total control of the narrative. Everything is fine. Nothing is bad.
No.
It's good. It's good. We figured it all out.
That's our new conspiracy theory, that things are actually good for the Democrats.
Things are fine.
As we're
fine.
on, we've mentioned some former presidents here, and we're still on conspiracy theories. Bill Clinton, he said that he didn't note any decline in Joe Biden. Does this man, though very, very trustworthy, do they just need to shut up? Like, why is this happening all the time? Why are we hearing from these people?
I mean, yeah, Joe Biden isn't old, and Bill Clinton definitely didn't get sucked off in the White House. Like, let's all just pretend we don't know what we know. Like shut the fuck up.
Yeah, I just wish he would stop
Like, what are we
talking.
doing here?
Chris, let's do some conspiracy theory tit for tat. Because fuck them. Nikki's making ones up, which is cool. You've got to remind us of, you know, around Trump's own health. It's not always been super clear, the picture of what's going on, has it?
Depends what you mean there, Jarv. Where are you leading me? What
Well,
path are you leading me down here?
So where I'm leading you, strong-arming you, is the Trump height conspiracy theory, that his height and weight quite regularly fluctuate.
Well, doesn't well, not height, I guess.
No, my height doesn't. Maybe
Well, he
if
lies about it.
Actually, to be fair, in COVID, I did so much Pilates, I grew nearly an inch taller. And I've shrunk back now.
Whoa.
I know. Ridiculous.
Yeah.
I was nearly 6 foot. I'm not anymore. No, I'm just a humble 5'10" guy.
Right.
But yeah, so it can, but I don't think he's doing as much Pilates as I was doing in COVID. I hyper-focused on it.
Well, yeah. Okay. Well, let's get into this a little bit then, because it was I think
Please.
you're talking about the report from the White House physician who released the annual, I guess, wellness check for the president, which said that he was in good health. And the thing that's been picked up most is what you're referring to, is this height issue of 6'3" and 224 pounds. Lots of people have mocked this online. I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure it's wrong, because if you look at the Fulton County Sheriff's Office release from when he was, well, he handed himself in, but his arrest details, his booking details, that has 6'3" and 217 pounds. And unless Fulton County Sheriff's Office is part of this broader conspiracy...
I thought that had 6'2", but okay.
Well, I've just looked at it. It says 6'3", Jarv.
Okay.
You calling me a liar?
Yeah, I am, you fucking liar.
Ridiculous. So I don't know where to really to stand, because there are pictures, again, of him next to someone like Ramaswamy, who's 5'10", and he appears to be the same height.
Yeah.
And then there's pictures of him next to Prince William, Prince William is 6'3", and he appears to be shorter. So I don't know.
Maybe he's just got bad posture. The other thing could be...
He definitely does. He's definitely a member of the I Learned to Stand This Morning committee.
I also I text my mate who was a reporter in DC and was in his presence not long ago, and I said to him, how big, in preparation for this podcast, I said, hi, mate, would you say Trump looked 6'3" when you saw him? He said, yeah, tall motherfucker.
Tall motherfucker.
So it's in. It's official.
All right, well...
I have heard that he is tall in person.
Yeah, okay, great.
I've never met the guy.
Yeah.
I'm the tallest, actually.
Fuck you, Jarv.
Of the 3 American Friction co-hosts, I am the tallest.
Yes. Sure. Yeah, you're the tallest in personality. Now, to round up some other stories that you might have missed in what we're calling story time with Jarv and Chris and Nikki.
No, it's changed since last
Yeah,
week.
because there's 3 of us now. Nikki, the travel ban. It's come in.
Yeah.
Anything more than Trump being really racist? Is there
It's
much
back.
more to it?
Yeah. It's effectively a resurgence of what he tried to do the first term, which is basically just ban all immigration from majority Muslim countries. During the first term, it was known as the Muslim ban. The countries he's put on the list this time are Afghanistan, Myanmar, Chad, Congo, Equatorial Guinea, Eritrea, Haiti, Iran, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and Yemen. He's also partially restricting entry to people from Burundi, Cuba, Laos, Sierra Leone, Togo, Turkmenistan, and Venezuela. So a little bit more expansive than the ban he attempted to implement in his first term. Obviously, not all of those countries are majority Muslim. But you do see some of the fixations he has vis-a-vis immigration. So like Haiti, where during the campaign, he was claiming that Haitian migrants were eating people's pets, falsely claiming. Gonna make sure to add that. Venezuela, which he, claims is sending drug lords to the United States to launch a violent invasion of the country. It's the pretext he's using to invoke the Alien Enemies Act, so it makes sense that Venezuela would be on this list. It's another signal on the manner in which this administration is not just cracking down on quote unquote violent criminals, because I don't know if you guys saw the report this week that Stephen Miller lost his shit at some of the higher ups at ICE because he was basically like, you're not deporting enough people. Why aren't you at the Home Depots? Why aren't you doing roundups everywhere? And the ICE officials responded like, hey man, you said to go after the criminals. We're going after the criminals. And Stephen Miller responded, no, you need to be going after everyone. We need to be hitting thousands of deportations a day. And the only way that this administration can do that is by doing up horrific things like rounding up moms and ripping their babies out of their hands while they arrest them, putting 18-year-olds who've lived in this country since they were 5 years old into prison while they await deportation. And the only, the natural follow-up of this crackdown on immigration isn't that it's just going to be a crackdown against undocumented immigration. It's going to be a crackdown on legal immigration. And that crackdown is going to be based off, the racial proclivities of the MAGA movement, which tend to lean in a decidedly white supremacist direction, and the ideological obsession they have with creating a white Judeo-Christian empire in the United States. We're seeing it happen before our eyes.
You were exactly right, Nikki. It's really weird looking at this because it seems as though if you take their messaging on face value, they say that they want to put bans like this in place to create a safer America, to stop threats from terror, for example. But this isn't the biggest, banning people from countries such as the 7 Muslim majority countries back in its first term, and then we see Afghanistan on that list as well. Countries where Al Qaeda have a presence. Banning people from countries like this it shouldn't be the priority. I was looking at some statistics actually from the Center for Strategic and International Studies, and they said that although threats from organizations such as Islamic State and Al Qaeda are very real, actually the threat from right-wing extremists is the bigger threat. And this is a couple of quotes from their research. It says, right-wing attackers were most likely to cause more deaths in a given year. And then in the 14 of the 21 years between 1994 and 2019 in which fatal terrorist attacks occurred, the majority of deaths resulted from right-wing attacks. So what we've seen here really is this ban put in place by Trump to stop people from coming into the country. But at the same time, cast your mind back to the releasing of the people at Jan 6th. He's released right-wing extremists, some would call terrorists, back out into the open, making things a lot worse. His priorities are all wrong.
But also, this notion that people from these countries are just allowed to walk into the United States without any form of like vetting is patently absurd. One of the reasons the United States has not had a foreign terrorist attack on the level of like a 9/11 since 9/11 is because in the aftermath of that attack, they instituted so many policies, a lot of which are kind of insane and unlawful, to vet immigrants coming into this country. There are people from Afghanistan who helped the US military do translation work, do like cultural work on the ground during the invasion of Afghanistan, which we've talked about like my feelings about that entire war. It's bad. They haven't been granted asylum or entry into the United States, despite the fact that the Taliban is targeting them. Because Trump administration hasn't deigned to do it, but also because the immigration vetting processes are so insane that people get caught in this system for decades waiting for approval to come into the United States. So the notion that it's just like an open door policy to people from the countries on this list, it's absurdist, it's a lie, and it's a lie that is propagandized to the ends of Republicans.
Chris, death, executions.
Yeah.
They're kind of back in vogue.
Well, it's
aren't they?
incredibly American, isn't it? It's very good.
America.
It's not good. I
Yeah, no,
shouldn't have
it's-
said that. It's actually very bad.
Yeah.
And
we're advocating for the death penalty on the pod.
yeah.
Yeah,
cool.
No,
why
we're not.
Far right,
No,
Chris.
we're not.
Chris
No, we're
is.
not.
In some states,
Yeah.
it never really went out of fashion, to be honest. But what we've seen so far, well, last year there were a total of 25 deaths from execution. So far, up until the 22nd of May this year, there have been 19, according to the Death Penalty Information Center's execution database. It's a pretty rad name, to
It's
be
a
fair.
cool database
But
name.
That's not a cool set of data, that's for sure. And also, I didn't realize this, but South Carolina is still carrying out firing squad executions.
I mean, they're still
That's-
legal.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's fucked. Well, but I think the most fucked thing, I used to think that lethal injections, I thought there was like a lethal injection that was like worked. It was just a thing. They're just like a mashup of loads of chemicals that will fuck you up, basically. And they can't get hold of some of the chemicals at the moment.
Well, yeah,
That
exactly.
fuck you up, yeah.
And this is something that Florida has acted upon. Ron DeSantis has signed in to into law. It was Bill 903, which I quote, authorizes a
Wait,
death sentence to be executed by a method not deemed unconstitutional if the acquisition of chemicals necessary for lethal injection becomes impossible or impractical. So that essentially means that what could happen is hanging nitrogen gas and electric chairs.
I didn't
could be
realize
used.
they executed a guy via firing squad last month.
Yeah, it was.
Okay,
That's
yeah.
what I mean.
I thought the last one was 2021.
It's pretty wild. I couldn't find though. I don't think beheading's on the table.
But the thing
But
is,
there are
okay,
some
but
pretty
like,
crazy
let's
things
be
that are.
real.
Gosh.
But the thing is, like, speaking objectively, a guillotine is probably the most humane method.
Yeah.
No,
What
like,
is
I'm
this
serious, like-
podcast become?
No, like,
No,
I
no,
feel
like,
you.
I'm actually serious because there's
Yeah, if I had to
they've-
take one of the options, I'd probably take, French me up. Like,
yeah, no, behead me.
What are you going for, Chris?
What?
If you're not going for guillotine?
but this is actually interesting that you've asked me this because
Mhm.
this is
Because you're sentenced to death.
no, this is a genuine question in some states that they ask
Yeah.
people on death
Oh,
row.
really?
They give them the option.
Because like firing
Oh.
squad, what if they miss and you just like die a
And
really
that
horrible,
happens.
painful death?
Oh,
Yeah,
my God.
And then lethal injection, they mess it up all the time. It's super common. The nitrogen one, it's also super sketchy. Behead me. Behead me.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Instant.
Ugh.
I'd
Gosh.
just like to stay alive, actually.
Yeah.
Please.
Yes,
Thank you.
but
Yeah, can I take the Bee Gees option, actually?
The Bee Gees option. What does that mean?
Staying alive.
staying alive.
Very good.
Come on, Chris.
Oh, I was very slow to that. Apologies.
You
Sorry.
were. Right, let's do a couple of listener questions, shall we? So,
We shall.
Matt GS, I actually never know how to say Caroline Leavitt. Is that right? Caroline
Levitt? I say Levitt.
Levitt, okay. So, Caroline Levitt says it's fine for Trump to hold his meme coin dinner in secret and potentially be influenced by influencers, as it's in his personal time. Basically, i.e., it's fine for him to allegedly accept bribes when he's off the clock. Do you think, as some are saying, that this will really move the dial on his interpretation of presidential immunity? Long question, Matt. And leave him open to prosecution?
I mean, if I were a prosecutor, that is an argument I would attempt to exploit, basically saying the president himself claims that he works a 9 to 5 and that after any activities that aren't officially on his schedule do not count as official acts, and are therefore subject to prosecution. Because despite what the president may think and how he may behave, the presidency is not a 9 to 5. It's like being the Pope. You are the president 24/7 for your 4-year term. If we have a second Cuban Missile Crisis, let's say like, I don't know, Russia or China says like, oh, we're going to nuke you. You know, they're not going to knock on the president's door at 7 p.m. and be like, hey, Mr. President, like, I know it's after hours, but like, we have a situation. Are you free to like come down to the situation? No, you're the president 24/7. And because you're the president 24/7, you don't stop being the president when you go to a fancy dinner to hawk your corrupt like crypto scheme. The only reason the people who were at that dinner was because they paid out the ass, dropped millions of dollars to get an invitation to a dinner with the president, not with Donald Trump, private citizen, Donald Trump, the president of the United States. So absolutely, if I was a prosecutor and I was trying to go after this man for running a corrupt cryptocurrency scheme that exploited the elected office he is in, I would absolutely argue that the president's own mentality factored into these decisions. You can essentially argue that it's like a premeditation.
Yeah.
I'm not a lawyer, though. Don't take my advice.
No, but what you can take our advice on, or what we need advice on, is we're still in the market for doing a rug pull. So if anyone knows how to help us make a crypto coin.
If anyone knows how to do a rug pull, let us know.
I'm so down for a rug pull, man. That's the dream. Sorry, everyone. James Forrester Gray for when I've rug pulled you.
If a million people subscribe to the Patreon, I will reveal what kind of fan fiction I'm into.
Yeah, and then we'll rug pull you.
And then I won't reveal it.
James Forrester Gray has a question here, and this is quite a nice full circle moment. There's a lot of talk of Elon leaving the White House / Doge, but wasn't this always going to happen with him being a special government employee with a time limit? Do you
Why are you reading it like,
I don't know,
like how your dad
like
reads a bedtime story
Do
when
you
you're
think
younger?
the falling out is being exaggerated when he was always due to step down? At least for a while.
That employment status would have expired. But if things were going well, they absolutely would have found a way to keep him on. They would have appointed him interim something. The real issue here was that the more official his position became, the more requirements there were for like ethics and financial disclosures. In the position Elon was in, they basically gave him a waiver to do his ethics disclosures like confidentially, which was bullshit. But I think we should go back and try and find this. In a previous episode, didn't we predict when Elon Musk would be out?
Oh, yeah.
And I don't remember what we each said.
Shit, we did.
Yeah.
I think I said a couple of years.
I think I said he was going to stick it out the whole time or some shit.
I
was trying to be
think I was the one that said a
outlandish.
few months, but I may just be like retroactively giving myself the crown.
I said exactly this long.
Yeah. I said Friday. But,
Very good.
But like I think the thing here, and it's partially, I think, what we discussed in that previous episode, I can't fully remember, is that if things went really wrong, it was going to end up like this. That Elon Musk also made the mistake of not necessarily having an expiration date on his position, but of making himself the face of all of these cuts, of really trying to bulldoze instead of systematically assessing, or instead of approaching what is a necessary reform, which is, yeah, the US government spends a ton of money it probably shouldn't. There is probably waste. There is definitely like excesses in US government spending that can be curved back. But instead of actually setting up a system where you could put agencies through audits and review process and really figure out, okay, what programs work, what doesn't, what can be restructured, he just made himself the poster boy for a campaign of chaos that tanked not only his popularity, but the president's, and also really negatively affected his companies to the point where, forget the fucking expiration date on his like temporary employment status with the White House. Tesla was basically leaking reports saying, oh, we're considering replacing him to get him to come back.
Yeah.
It was a fuck up of his own making. And if he was doing a good job, if Republicans thought that the Doge initiative and Musk was good for them, they would have found a way to keep him on. They would have done it.
Well, we've got time for an extra silly question that I might just come up with off the top of my head quickly to end on a little fun note and not Elon Musk.
Right.
Let me think about it. Sylvester Stallone or Arnold Schwarzenegger?
Right.
Which one?
What do you mean?
Which one's your favourite? And then when you've got your favourite, which film? Just so we can give everyone a film recommendation for the weekend. We don't do that. A little bit of culture, helping everyone keep themselves happy. So which one and which
This is
film?
such a boy
I've never
question.
seen Rocky.
Never seen
I've
Rocky.
also
No.
never seen Rocky.
I've never seen Rocky. No, I have. I watched it like a month ago.
So you're lying.
I had never seen it historically.
Well, yeah.
And then I saw it. But it took me a long time
Stop
to
trying
see
to be
it.
one of us, Josh.
It took me like more than 30 years to see it, which felt
Yeah,
long.
I don't think I will see it.
No, it's all right. It's not as good as everyone makes out.
No.
But anyway, which one are you going to pick?
I do like Terminator. So
Sure, yeah, I mean
Schwarzenegger.
that's probably what I
Schwarzenegger.
have to go with. Is
Also, what was that?
Terminator.
Chris,
Schwarzenegger for Predator.
What's the Christmas film
Oh.
that he's in where he's like he's a dad and he turns into a superhero at the end?
Oh, shit.
Jingle Bells?
Is it that?
Maybe. Someone tell us. Anyway, Predator and Terminator.
I don't know.
Jingle Bells.
I
Watch
don't
them over
do
the
this.
weekend. Shall we do a film club for one of the bonus editions?
I would love to do I would
on
love to do
Patreon.
some political film watching. We could do like All the President's Men.
We could do Predator though.
What about Lord of the Rings?
Let's pick something anyway.
That's got so
And we'll do
much
like a little
politics in
film
it.
club for the Patreon. We can all watch a film and then we'll have a little bit of a chat about it afterwards. That'll be nice. That's a new thing
I
we're
like
going to
it.
do.
I'm about it.
So with that brings us to the end of this episode of American Friction. Go to the Patreon and sign up because, as you've just heard, there's something new coming up. We've got a film club coming. But anyway, we're doing it.
Have we?
Yeah, we're doing it.
Right, okay, sure.
Me
You're
and
the
Nikki
boss,
want
We're
I
to
doing
guess.
it live. I'll
Chris,
do it.
thank you.
Oh, cheers, mate. Thanks to you as well.
That's all right. Nikki, thank you.
Thank you.
And-
Thank you both. And thank you, Tommy, who's
Tommy,
subbing in for Simon.
thank
Thanks,
you.
Tommy, mate.
Thanks, Tommy.
You're a good man.
Thank you.
Thanks, mate. Yeah, nice. Really nice.
that.
That's
Love
the
that.
spirit of Simon there.
Yeah.
I felt like a
It's a good
Simon-esque
one.
thank you. And thank you, Simon. He's
cheers,
back
Simon.
next week.
He should
Simon
be.
is. So, yeah, he'll keep us in line. There'll be less ridiculous bits, maybe. Who knows? But anyway, that's the end of the show. Remember, if you want to support us, want to back us, want to keep this going, because who wouldn't want to keep it going, go to patreon.com/American Friction. There's a link in the show notes. And if you can't support us financially, we appreciate that. But what we would appreciate even more, we'd appreciate if you'd go and rate, review, subscribe wherever you're listening to the show. So go and do that right now. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That's the end of American
5
Friction.
stars.
We'll see. Yeah, 5 stars for real. See you soon. Bye.